Yo, I'm Stanley, and this is my trip to Virginia. When Stanley arrived in our mailbox last March, he was not prepared to go out in the early spring showers, so we made him a fine raincoat with a little tape, and Stanley was ready to see Virginia. Stanley was sent to us in the little town of Warsaw on the northern neck peninsula of Virginia. Where is the northern neck, Stanley? Nice job. A peninsula is a landmass that is bordered on three sides by water. Our peninsula has the Potomac River to the north, the Chesapeake Bay to the east, and the Rappahannock River to the south. During Stanley's stay in Virginia, we thought it would be a good idea to take him to see our capital. Where is Richmond, Stanley? That-a boy. Our first stop in Richmond was at the Confederate White House, which is where Confederate President Jefferson Davis and his family lived during the Civil War. Richmond was the capital of the Confederacy and is only a little over 100 miles away from the Union capital of Washington, D.C. Davis and his family left the house on April 2, 1865, when Union soldiers led by General Grant captured the city of Richmond. Confederate soldiers set fire to much of Richmond during their retreat, which resulted in a quarter of the city's buildings being destroyed. Next to the Confederate White House is the Museum of the Confederacy, where there are lots of great pictures, paintings, and artifacts from the Civil War. We lost track of Stanley for a while, but then found him reading a brochure on the Confederacy with this pretty lady. Apparently Stanley knows how to smarten up through reading. Nice job, Stanley. Our next stop was only a few blocks away. Here is Stanley playing in the beautiful flowers on the steps of the Capitol building. The Capitol grounds are surrounded with a number of enormous, beautiful monuments, including this one to President George Washington, who was born in Virginia. Here is another monument dedicated to the efforts of everyone that believed in civil rights for all people, regardless of their color. This particular monument is dedicated to Barbara Johns and her classmates, who went on strike April 23, 1951, to protest racial segregation at Prince Edward County School. Next to the Capitol is the Executive Mansion, where current Governor Tim Kaine lives, who was recently appointed President of the Democratic National Committee. Only 1 minute before this video was taken, Governor Kaine walked out the front door with his son on their way out for the day and waved at us and Stanley. Unfortunately, our cameraman didn't have enough time to get a picture. Sorry, Stanley. Underground leading to the Capitol is a museum, where Stanley was able to pose with this very old flag of the Commonwealth of Virginia. The same seal is in front of the Capitol building. The seal reads, Sic Semper Tyrannis, which means death to all tyrants. Finally, it came time for us to look inside the Capitol building. But where did Stanley go? There he is! Inside the Capitol building there are several more monuments and plaster busts, including another one to President Washington that is over 200 years old. Here is Stanley standing in front of the House of Delegates chambers, where Queen Elizabeth stopped by last year to say hi to the Virginia government. God save the Queen! Finally, we decided to take Stanley for a little drive down Monument Avenue in Richmond, where every March thousands of runners gather for the Monument 10K race, including my wife and I. There are many old, beautiful houses on this street, but not a lot of room between them. Monument Avenue gets its name from the numerous monuments that line the street memorializing famous Virginians, including Arthur Ashe, Stonewall Jackson, and perhaps one of the most beloved Virginians in history, General Robert E. Lee. Although General Lee fought on the losing side of the Civil War, he is honored and revered throughout the Commonwealth. He was born on a plantation called Stratford Hall that is not too far from where we live. The plantation now serves as a museum of General Lee. We had a great time showing Stanley around Virginia's capital city, and we hope Dawson and the rest of Mrs. Beerhouse's third grade class have enjoyed our little video. Anything you want to say before we go, Stanley?
Yeah. Why you gotta stick me in a box to send me back? I won a first-class plane ticket and a...
Okay, that'll be enough of that, Stanley.
No, hey, I'm serious. What? Don't be putting me in that box.
Okay, time to go, buddy.
No, man, really, seriously. I don't like boxes. I'm claustrophobic.
I hear you clearly, though you're hardly in my view, for I listened in the way in which you told.